Hello, today I'm going to be talking about Vivian Westwood. To start off, I'll give you some background information as well as a little introduction. Vivian Westwood is a British designer who rose to success in the 70s and was a trendsetter in the punk scene and punk fashion movement. Her designs were very bold, provocative, and erotic. Westwood always aspired to push the envelope and caused a lot of controversy with her designs. Now we will be exploring a timeline of important events in Vivian Westwood's life. In 1941, Vivian Westwood was born Vivian Isabel Swire on April 8th. She was born in a tiny village in Cheshire, England, to her father, who was a shoemaker, and her mother, who worked in a cotton mill. In 1958, when she was 17, Westwood left home to attend Harrow School of Art, where she studied fashion. In 1962, Vivian married Derek Westwood, where she would get her famous last name. In 1963, she had her first son, Benjamin Westwood. In 1966, she divorced Derek Westwood and met a man by the name of Malcolm McLaren, an art student and activist. In 1967, Vivian had her second son with Malcolm, and his name was Joseph. In 1971, Malcolm McLaren and Vivian Westwood, and also a friend Patrick Casey, set up to open a boutique in London. This boutique would undergo many name changes throughout its history, but began as Let It Rock. They sold anti-system message t-shirts as well as 50s inspired clothing. In the mid-1970s, Westwood's store named Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die gained attention from London's underground scene. The contents of the store were inspired by the 40s. In 1974, the store was renamed with the iconic name Sex. This store focused on leather and erotic garments. In 1976 through 77, the store was renamed Seditionaries, and Westwood explored designing garments based on sexual fetishism. This was also the time when Malcolm McLaren introduced her to the band Sex Pistols because he helped manage them. Their song God Save the Queen charted at number 1. In 1980, Westwood's shop was renamed World's End. In 1981, Westwood designed her world-famous God Save the Queen shirts with the Queen of England's face on them. This was the year of Vivian Westwood's first runway show, the Pirate Collection. This collection went on to be a historic moment in fashion. In 1983, Westwood split with McLaren. This was one of the reasons why her store would be called World's End. The title World's End was also inspired by the lessening interest by the public in the punk scene. In 1984, she released a line inspired by Hollywood actor Clint Eastwood. In 1988, Westwood switched up her style a little bit and took a slight break from punk. This was the year she deemed her pagan years. The style of this time in this collection was inspired by garments and fashion of the upper middle class. In 1989, she was elected by John Fairchild of the Women's Wear Daily as one of the 6 best designers in the world. Westwood received the OBE Award from Queen Elizabeth III for her services to fashion. In the 1990s, this was the beginning of a new era for Westwood. She designed based on her inspiration from 19th century French and English costumes. This was the time where Kate Moss and Naomi Campbell were at the height of their success. This inspired the collection that was called Anglomania. During this time, Naomi Campbell had one of her famous falls on Westwood's runway. In 1993, she married Andreas Kranthalis. He was her design student and 25 years her junior. They are still together to this day. Westwood designed a watch collection. This collection was called Time Machine, inspired by her pagan era and featuring her famous logo, the orb. This was in 2012. In 2014, the longtime climate activist Vivian Westwood stated, "Climate change is my priority, not fashion." Westwood has went on to be an activist for climate change. She wants to be recognized as so. In 2015-16, Westwood's Fall-Winter collection, she released her Unisex Androgynous collection. In 2021, celebrities and influencers continue to wear Vivian Westwood's design on the red carpets and in the spotlight. Her designs always stay relevant and remain classic. Vivian Westwood's latest collection was her Spring 2022 Ready-to-Wear collection, pulling inspiration from her past runway looks, like the Pirates collection and the 19th century British collection. She is still devoted to climate change and activism, and made this collection with materials that are 98% cruelty-free and have a low impact on the environment. Now I'm going to discuss some of Vivian Westwood's most famous garments and pieces. Starting from left to right, first we have the God Save the Queen t-shirt. This design was inspired by the Sex Pistols and is one of her most iconic designs, as well as one of the first. This shirt was designed with then-partner Malcolm McLaren. This design featured Queen Elizabeth III with a safety pin through her nose and a set of swastikas in her eyes, which was the ultimate fashion protest at the time. Moving over to the center, this iconic t-shirt design was a shirt with a print of realistic breasts that was made to empower women as well as be worn by those of all genders to promote being gender fluid. On the right, another iconic garment comes from Westwood's collaboration with artist Keith Haring. This collection was called Witches. The print that's designed by Haring is very iconic and used in many different garments throughout the collection. This collection was inspired by Haitian voodoo, hieroglyphs, and hip-hop. Again, from left to right, starting at the left, in 1985, Westwood designed this hoop miniskirt inspired by the 19th century crinolines. This skirt was regularly called the mini crinny. Moving over, this oil painting inspired corset is one of Westwood's most iconic works. This print is still very popular in modern day fashion. This is from her 1990s portrait collection. Over to the right is Naomi Campbell wearing an iconic tartan pattern. Tartan is a plaid pattern that Westwood brought into the spotlight in her Anglomania collection in 1993. Many people think of her when they see tartan. She brought the color to life with the new pattern and used different colors with this pattern that have never been used before. The iconic mini brass relief choker with Westwood's signature orb design is something that has made a giant comeback and is one of her most recognized designs in modern times. Young people have brought this necklace back and can be seen all over social media platforms. There have been many retailers and fast fashion brands that have made cheaper knockoff versions of this necklace because it has become so popular. Now we will be discussing the visual aesthetics of Vivian Westwood. She's inspired by punk rock in the punk rock fashion era. She'll be forever known as one of the founders of punk fashion. She drew inspiration from the political climate as well as the overall social climate and used fashion as a form of protest. Her eras can sometimes be described as punk, eclectic, feminine, and retrospective. She uses bold and mismatched patterns in many of her designs. Her designs are rebellious and push past convention. She has also collaborated and drawn inspiration from other artists. Now we will be discussing her target customer. In the past, Westwood's target customer was the punks and the rebels that still had a taste for punk couture, mainly in the 70s and 80s. Westwood's collections evolved over time, opening her target market to those who desired unique designer fashion of all genders, ranging generally from early 30s to late 30s. In present day, Vivian Westwood's current target market is people of all genders in their mid-20s through their mid-50s. Her customers today likely have a higher income because her items are pricey but built to last. Her customers likely care about the environment and are still inspired by her activism and revolutionary designs. Vivian Westwood has a unique and rich history when it comes to her retail past. She formed her first boutique with then-partner Malcolm McLaren in 1971 and named it Let It Rock. They later changed the name to Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die, Sex, and Seditionaries. After Westwood and McLaren split, she renamed the boutique World's End, and that is what it's still called today. Westwood's designs can be seen on runways and found in boutiques and retailers mainly in the US, UK, and Asia. Westwood's designs can also be purchased online. Here are my references. Thanks for listening.